How's it going, everyone? My name is Ben Marcus, and welcome to another episode of Summer School brought to you by OM System. I'm so excited to be working today with a absolutely beautiful human being by the name of Matt Suess, one of our ambassadors here in North America. Matt's career has taken him all over the country with an amazing focus on both landscape and astrophotography, which is going to be our focus today. He's an absolutely fantastic educator. He leads workshops. You should definitely check those out. Those are already in the comments. You can follow him on Instagram, Facebook, and we'll be dropping those links in it as well. But you can follow him at Matt Suess Photo. Check out his website as well. But without further ado, here's Matt.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much
for Matt, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and welcome everyone who's tuning in. I don't know, we got people anywhere in the comments there mentioning where they are from tuning in yet?
Yeah, we've got people from the Gold Coast, Australia. Fantastic. Always happy to have our Aussies. We've got Connecticut, Minnesota, New York, upstate New York specifically, Florida, Boston, Southern Indiana. Everybody's trying to break the heat. We've got some people coming in from Colorado and a couple places. Cripple Creek, Denver. I see that. So fantastic. Nice. So for those of you joining us for the first time with these, go ahead and leave your questions in throughout this entire presentation. We're going to go for about an hour today as we get to see a behind the scenes of watching Matt edit his star photos live. So whenever you have questions, let us know. I'll be answering some. We'll be discussing some others, but really looking forward to a lively conversation with all of you. There's no question that's too simple or too complicated for us, as long as it pertains to photography, of course. But I'm really excited to get into it. So Matt, I'm going to share your screen.
Okay.
But let's get things going here.
Sounds good. Hey, looks like
Poconos, Melbourne, Farmville. I mean, we got a lot of cool places. Very cool.
Awesome. So it looks like we're all set and ready to go.
Yep, we are good to go. So everybody can see your Lightroom screen now.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And yeah, like Ben was mentioning, feel free to post any questions. And Ben, yeah, feel free to interrupt me at all on anything that's really topical of the moment and all that stuff. So no need to worry about interrupting me at all. And yeah, let's get going here. So I'm going to do some editing on some night sky photography. And these photos that I have here selected were actually photographed last week during my night sky photography workshop in Grand Teton National Park. And I offer, actually this year I'm offering 4 different workshops, 2 in the Tetons and 2 in the Badlands National Park that are OM System exclusive. So you have to have an OM System camera to go ahead and take that workshop. All those workshops are sold out this year, but I'm getting the dates open for next year. So if you want to join me on that, go ahead and do that. And the photos that I'm going to actually be showing today, too, were taken with the brand new OM3 Astro camera. Let me know in the comments how many people have that new camera. So we're going to take a look at how well that does with the Milky Way photos in this presentation. And I'm going to be using my main software that I use for editing my night sky photos is Lightroom, Photoshop, and also some software from DxO, including Pure Raw, to get rid of all the noise, and also from the Nick collection too. And I'll show you how I do all of that. And it'll be interesting to for some of you too who are used to possibly stacking all your photos to get rid of noise. You'll be amazed at what DxO Pure Raw can do for high ISO photos from our cameras, where you won't even need to be stacking anymore. And I mean, hey, I'd rather be working on just a couple images than a whole bunch of stacked photos. So let's go ahead here and get started. Now, we're going to take a look at these first 2 photos. These are some barn photos that I photographed in the Tetons here. And I have, this is something that I do a lot of. I'll have one photo specifically for the sky, and then I'll have another photo specifically for the foreground. So this here is my foreground photo, and this is my sky photo. And neither one of these photos have been edited at all yet. This foreground photo was photographed towards the later hours of the blue hour. It was still about an hour before pure dark. And there's no light painting allowed in a lot of the national parks these days. And Tetons is one of those places, too, that you're not supposed to do any light painting. It's illegal. But this particular area here, you have the benefit of it being somewhat of a popular drive, and cars drive by and give you some illumination when you're waiting for it. And so that's what happened here in this photo. So I got some nice illumination in my foreground on the barn, and we're going to combine that with this night sky photo that I was just concerned about getting the Milky Way. So let's go ahead and start with the Milky Way photo here first. And we can take a look here on my camera settings. So this was shot at ISO 8000 with the 12 millimeter OMSYSTEM 12 millimeter f2.0 lens. I shot it at f2.2, and it was a 13-second exposure. So let's go ahead and go into the develop module. Now, the very first thing that I'm going to do here is under profile, I'm going to switch that from Adobe Color to Adobe Landscape right off the bat there. And we can see that it gives a nice little bump in some of the contrast and also in the color too. I find Adobe Landscape a lot better than the generic Adobe Color that it defaults to. Now I have my white balance and tint that I'm going to be doing some adjustments to, but I want to make some tonal adjustments to this first. Now I'm shooting raw, and I'm shooting on the Astro camera. I believe my white balance, I think I have it set for like 2800, 2900 Kelvin. On the non-Astro cameras, like the OM1 Mark II and the regular OM3 and the OM5, I usually have my white balance set for 4200 Kelvin. And that is assuming that there's no moon at all, which is the best time to photograph the Milky Way. So let me go ahead and make some tone adjustments here. And this photo looks just a hair dark. We can brighten this up a little bit with some exposure. And things that I like to do to really help with the contrast and the exposure is open up my whites and lower my blacks. And I brought my whites way too high. Let's go ahead and knock that down just a little bit more. And when I'm doing that, I'm also going to knock down my highlights a little bit too. But doing the whites and the blacks on separate adjustments here, this is really helping with contrast. And it is actually giving it a little bit of a saturation boost to it, helping with the contrast and helping bring out some of the detail to the Milky Way. And you'll notice here that I do a lot of jumping around. So I'll make some adjustments to the whites and blacks, then I'll go back here and lower the highlights a little bit more. Then I might make some more fine tuning with the whites and the blacks. And all of these settings, I'm going to be going through my process, but all these number settings, I mean, they're different from every photo, of course, but this gives you at least the idea of my workflow here. So now I've already made the whites and the blacks adjustments. I've lowered my highlights. I could increase my shadows a little bit, but honestly, I'm just only paying attention to the sky. I don't care about the foreground at all because I have my other photo that's going to be the foreground for this photo. And I don't need to open up the shadows in the sky photo. Actually, I had that brightened up a little bit on the exposure. I'm actually going to reset that and maybe just brighten it just a little bit, just a touch. Now that I've made my tonal adjustments here, I can see the photo a little bit better. So now I can go adjust the temperature and the tint. Now I'm working on a calibrated monitor here, so I trust my colors with what I'm seeing with my eyes. And I think that's really important when you're doing these color corrections. I'm not going to set a white balance at all or anything in the darkness of the sky. To me, it just doesn't work. It's just a better way to do it just visually, just going through here and adjusting the temperature and the tint. And, you can see here just some small adjustments, how I made the sky really blue, really cool, or just increasing the temperature ever so slightly warms it up really fast. This is especially when you're in these low Kelvin numbers, which I am for the Astro camera. So I'll end up jumping from the temperature to the tint, making some adjustments here. So let's see here. It's looking a little reddish, and so I can lower the tint a little bit. And this is all to taste. It's all based on your own style. There's no real right way or wrong way to do this, I don't think. I just don't prefer having a daylight balanced color temperature to my night sky, because to me it just looks way too yellow and just not a pleasing color. So let's see here. This is not looking too bad right now. Let's see. I'm gonna maybe, oh boy, it's such a fine-tuned adjustment here. You just move the slider ever so slightly and you get a really big change of the color. And actually, you know what too? I totally forgot, Ben, this is the great thing about doing live presentations. I forgot to use my favorite software on this photo first, but this will be good because you'll notice that you can start making some edits to your photo. but I need to get this into DxO Pure Raw to get rid of all that noise that we can see in this photo. So basically what I'm going to do here is, this is my regular raw file. I'm going to go up into File, plug in Extras, and then scroll down to Preview and Process with DxO Pure Raw 6. And I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this is going to be where all the magic comes from in getting rid of all the noise in the photo. And remember here that this was photographed at ISO 8000, so we would definitely be expecting to see some noise in this photo. So we're in DxO Pure Raw right now as a plugin, and I can just click on here to zoom in to 100%, and we can see on the left-hand side, that's all the noise, the original, and on the right-hand side, it's been corrected. Now in DxO, with the latest version, you have two different versions of noise reduction that you can do, and it's DxO Deep Prime 3 or Deep Prime XD3. And, you know, you got to be looking at this at 100% and looking really close to see the difference in here. A lot of times I don't see much of a difference at all, and I'll just default to Deep Prime XD3, which is their newest one. You can go ahead and adjust the defaults of the luminance and force details. I would say 98% of my photos, I do not have to do any manual adjustments on those sliders up there. Now, scrolling down a little bit further here, the optical corrections, I will leave this enabled, lens sharpness optimization. And you have some defaults here for soft, standard, strong, hard, and custom. And any one of these defaults here is just adjusting this slider down below here, this intensity slider. So we can see soft is at an intensity of plus 75, standard is at plus 100, strong is at plus 150, and so on. Normally, again, I will have this at standard, unless I notice that my skies, my stars are maybe for whatever reason just a little bit soft. I might bump that up to the strong. But these stars look really nice and sharp here, so I'm going to leave that on standard. I will have the vignetting enabled. That will get rid of any lens vignetting. I'll also leave the chromatic aberration checked and the lens distortion too, so it will fix the lens distortion. And then I don't worry about this retouch down below here. And we can see here, just doing a little before and after, we can see that lens distortion being applied to the photo. So I'm almost ready to send this on its way back to Lightroom. But what I want to do here is that in this third tab here down below, just double check my settings, make sure that my output format is a DNG. That's going to be a raw DNG uncompressed. The destination, I leave that in the original images folder. So when it exports this DNG, it's going to put it right back right next to my original raw file. I do have it rename it too, so I can know that it was changed, and it will rename it with the noise reduction algorithm that I used. And down below here too, I have a Lightroom collection import. So here I have it, I happen to be working through a collection right now inside of Lightroom. So if I have this checked here, put inside a collection and the current collection, all I have to do is go ahead now and click on Process Now. And the file is going to go through DxO Pure Raw. It's going to get denoised, and all that fun stuff is going to be added to the photo, the vignetting and the sharpness and all that stuff. And it's going to put it right in that same collection that I had right next to my original raw file. And this is going to take just a moment later, and we're going to see this pop up.
So Matt, while you're drinking, because that seems like a great place for me to jump in, we do have a question, and this is something I'm curious about too. How would you compare the noise reduction capability in like the latest version of Lightroom Classic versus DxO these days?
It's getting better, but it's still not as good as DxO Pure Raw. And DxO, what they end up doing, they take every single camera, every single lens that's out there, and they do tests on this to then match the lens with the camera, and then they do their own demosaicing profiles for that specific setup. And each time you use a different lens, different camera body, the noise patterns are going to be different. So DxO spends a lot of time working with that actual lens and camera setup, where you just end up getting superior results. Now, the demosaicing is also important too, because that's how the software decompiles the raw file into what we can then see on the screen. And the way DxO demosaics that raw file, they have their own little sort of a little color spin to it as well that I really love the colors out of with DxO. And we can see it now that it's in here. Here is that DNG file. And if we look here, it's done it's copied my adjustments here, my develop adjustments, but it's still not the same as with my Lightroom version here. So there is a little bit of a color difference here between the two. And that's just really giving you a visual on how DxO demosaics that raw file and puts its own color spin on that. So if you do end up doing some editing like I did to my original raw file before you bring it through DxO, you'll have all those slider adjustments made, but chances are you'll have to go back in here and make some fine tunements on that. But yeah, the Lightroom noise reduction has gotten better, but it still doesn't compare to DxO. And I did a test. I don't have the photo here to show you right now, but I did a test at ISO 20,000 on our cameras. And Ben, I sent you that photo. That looked pretty darn good. I know you even saw just the small version of it, but that was
yes, I do remember that. I think I said something not quite as PC as "holy cow." You know, I'm lucky in this job, just like you are. We stare at amazing images constantly, every single day. So for one to get me up out of my seat and showing other people that I'm with, it was pretty stellar. You should definitely post that on the same lines. And I don't want to.
Yeah, I had that on the stories.
If you're able to, keep moving through your flow. Yeah, definitely. Somebody was also asking about, Topaz. They just got apparently acquired by Lightroom. I honestly, if it's a good merger, my thought is, Lightroom is a widely used tool. If it makes that tool better, great. As long as we're in a situation where there's enough brands and tools out there for everybody to have their needs met, and they force each other to, be in competition, I think we all win, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And
I've got another question. Yeah.
Yeah, you did bring up Topaz, and I will say I absolutely hate Topaz for raw files. Their demosaicing, their color in the background there, their algorithms, I absolutely hate. I get a nasty color out of it, so I do not use Topaz for raw files, but I will use Topaz Studio on JPEGs and TIFFs, and in particular for sharpening. It does a good job on sharpening.
Right. Now we do have a couple questions just about the OM3 Astro. I'm so excited that so many of you are utilizing that. If you're not, that's so okay as well. But the detail that specialized sensor brings in is very compelling. I mean, especially in your reds, which are a huge part of our galaxy, that is a really exciting piece. But one person was asking, do you have any trouble utilizing the starry sky focus feature, that computational starry AF that our cameras have? Do you notice any difference in performance with that?
Not with the Astro camera, if that was the question. And what I would just double check is make sure that on your focusing screen, make sure you're using the middle focusing or the large focusing box, and make sure that that box is all the way in the sky and it's not partially on your foreground. Because if that focusing box is partially on your foreground, it's going to have a hard time trying to find the stars and focus on it. Yep, and that's very good practice. The only other time I have an issue with Starry Sky AF is if the stars are really, really faint. And in that case there, if you look around the sky, you might see some brighter stars maybe off to your right where you're not photographing. Just rotate your camera on the ball head and then just point it towards those brighter stars, focus, and then you can turn your camera back to your original composition and take photos from there. But I haven't noticed any issues with Starry AF in the Astro camera compared to any of the other cameras. Okay, you there, Ben? Yep. Okay. All right, so back to the photo over here. As Ben and I were chatting, I did make a couple fine-tune adjustments here to the sky, just getting it back to where I liked it on this photo. And it's funny, you process these photos. Each time you do it, sometimes it's a little bit different each time. And let's see here. I might have a little bit too much red if I lower this tint just a hair, just a couple points. Man, it's crazy. It's like just 1 or 2 points make a big difference on this. So let's leave that right about there. Okay, so now all I've done is just some tone adjustments. I can sometimes I'll give it a little boost of clarity, and sometimes just a little boost of dehaze. I don't want to go crazy because that just looks pretty pretty ridiculous here. And I know I'm going to be bringing in some more clarity and detail in a little while once we get to Nick color effects. Now the saturation and vibrance, a lot of times I do increase that when I'm using my non-astro cameras. With this astro camera though, I've really been leaving the vibrance and saturation just at 0. Haven't needed to adjust that. Now I'll go down to the tone curve and I'll give it just a slight little tone curve, which means pulling up in this brighter area up here, and then down below here, just pulling down in these shadow areas a little bit. And you can see that increases the contrast and also increases the saturation a little bit. Now that I've done that little tone curve, I can go back up here and look, and my exposure might be a little dark. So if I brighten that exposure up just a hair, there we are. That now takes care of the brightness on that. And I just want to make sure I'm keeping my highlights fine. So I'll knock down my highlights. Anything else down below here, I can do individual colors if I wanted to adjust saturations on those. For this particular photo, I don't think I need to. Let's take a look at the color grading just for a quick stop here in the midtones. I'll just click on the midtones and see if I want to warm up those midtones a little bit. And actually, yeah, that doesn't look too bad. If I can give just a little bit of a warmth to the midtones, very slight adjustment there. And I'll scroll down here. Obviously, the denoise is off. I don't need it to do denoising. It just went through DxO Pure Raw. The sharpening, I don't need to add any sharpening. And I'll just make sure that the enable profile corrections is off because I already had that done in DxO Pure Raw, so I don't need a double lens corrections on that. So now this photo is all really good to go. We need to now work on my other photo, which is the foreground. So before I start doing anything on that, I'm going to go here and we'll go send this back to Pure Raw. And that's again, plugin extras, preview and process with DxO Pure Raw. That'll open up in Pure Raw. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit process because it's going to give me good results. And this photo here, this foreground was shot at ISO 2500 with the 12mm 13-second exposure. So here we are, just leaving everything the default, which was basically what was the, it always defaults to your last settings used. So I'll go ahead and click on process now and use a unique name because I've already done this one before. And so now this will just take a moment and kick us back into Lightroom. Any questions in the meantime, Ben? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's plenty. We've got a couple different ones. So I think this will be an easy one for us to discuss, which is why not stack 20 and then just use DxO? Let's unpack that a little bit, right? Because that is a valid thing. When we stack images, which is where we're usually on a tripod taking multiples, it can reduce noise. It's common in moon photography, but
yeah, I'm losing your audio a little bit here and there, Ben, but I think I got the gist of the question. Well, for one reason, I don't stack anything first because DxO Pure Raw only works on raw files. And most of the stacking software, if it does work on a raw file, I wouldn't even do it anyways. Usually you're stacking on TIFFs. So that's one reason. And two, I've done testing with the stacking software. The stacking software only is going to it's going to remove noise, and it actually can remove planes and satellites from your images too throughout the stacking process. But it doesn't give you any extra detail in the Milky Way. And that's some people think that it does, but it's really just to reduce noise, and it'll get rid of planes and stars, or planes and satellites and everything. I've tested this, and I've tested DxO Pure Raw at 8000 ISO, higher ISOs, and I've tested it with stacking. I get cleaner images, less noise, and sharper stars by just doing the single image with DxO than I do with stacking. And then again, I don't have to export 10 or 15 TIFF files 16-bit TIFF files to then stack and, you know, spend all this other time in another software program to get inferior results. If you don't want to invest in DxO Pure Raw, stacking is good. It will reduce the noise and get rid of those airplane trails. But me personally, it's DxO Pure Raw is, I mean, I can't say enough about it. Is that good, Ben? Okay.
No, I think that's fantastic, and I do apologize with my audio, but yeah, no, I think that's the big one.
Yeah. Okay, great. So here we are on my foreground image, and so this was already done DxO Pure Raw. We're looking at the DNG of it now. So again, first things first is switch this to Adobe Landscape, and this has a little bit of a reddish tint to the photo that I want to see if I can warm up a little bit. I'm going to drop my tint a little bit, adjust my temperature to keep that warmth up there. And I'm actually even probably going to desaturate this image just a little bit too. Let's go ahead and make a little bit of a whites adjustment. I don't want to go too crazy because as soon as I start increasing the whites, I can see some detail starting to lose already in the barn. And just lower my blacks just a little bit. My shadows, you know, I can brighten up my shadows quite a bit, but I'm going to kind of leave my shadows somewhat dark on this photo here. Let's see, let's lower my highlights. I'm not always a fan of really getting my foreground looking like a full daylight photo. You photograph the Milky Way at night. So for me, I kind of like having, you know, somewhat of a dark foreground, but we'll play around with this light a little bit here. I mean, I could even go into the masking and we'll just see what the landscape masking, if it detects the barn, if there was any localized adjustments that I want to do to the barn. And we'll let this run for just a quick second here. This is a really neat thing. Inside of Lightroom, when you click on that landscape, depending on your photo, it'll find water, it'll find objects, skies, ground, all sorts of things here. So we can see here it found my sky, mountains, architecture. So it did show up some of the architecture, vegetation, natural ground. If I just make a mask for the architecture, there'd be times that sometimes the mask is too much and I might want to paint out some areas over here, which you can just easily do by clicking on add or subtract. You can add to the mask or subtract to the mask. I'm just going to keep this simple in this demo and we'll just brighten things up just a little bit here. And I'll just leave the mask at its default. So we'll brighten up the exposure a little bit and maybe just the shadows just a little bit there. Okay, so now I'll go back to my global settings and give it that little bit of an S-curve boost, just a little bit. And let's see here, increase my shadows just a hair more. And then I'll just scroll down here. I'm not going to do anything to my midtones this time. And just double check that, see, I'm going to turn this off now, enable lens profile and turn off the remove chromatic aberrations because that has already been handled by DxO Pure Raw. So now if I go back into my library, I have this photo here and there actually is just a little bit of a distortion here. Oh, there we are. Let's turn enable profile off on that. Okay. And let's go ahead and look here. So we got my DNG here. So this is my DNG that I just processed here. And then we have for the foreground, and then we have my DNG for the sky. I'm going to select both of those photos and click on File and Export. And I'm going to export them to my hard drive, to a specific folder on my hard drive. And I'll leave the file renaming just the way it is. And the file settings, I'm going to export these files as a TIFF file with no compression. I happen to use Adobe RGB 1998 color space. Other people may use sRGB or ProPhoto RGB. I use Adobe RGB 98, and I'm going to keep my bit depth at 16 bits as opposed to 8 bits for ultimate quality. And then I'm not going to do any resizing. Any of this stuff is not checked at all. And then the only other thing I have here, this is going to export them as 16-bit TIFFs to my hard drive. And then it's also going to open these up right into Photoshop after they're processed. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and then we're going to be moving into Photoshop. And Ben, any questions while we come into Photoshop here?
Great timing. So we do have a few, and hopefully my connection's a little bit better for this. So the first one I'm going to throw up on the screen because we can definitely jump into this. So they saw your star exposure was at 13 seconds at 8,000 ISO. Do you have a formula? Because PhotoPills, which is a pretty good website for people to plan out their astro or landscape shots, shows OM1 with a 12 millimeter f2.8 to be at 7 seconds. Do you see out of focus stars at 13 seconds?
Well,
that's a lot to unpack, but I love that. But yeah, let's just look.
Nope. Those look pretty pinpoint to me. I hate formulas, and I hate doing math out in the field, and I hate looking up an app to then tell me some roundabout numbers. And there's like 2 or 3 different settings in PhotoPills for the stars and everything like that. You know, it takes so long to open up that app and to punch in the lens and all that stuff, where all you need to do, honestly, is just take a test photo. Take a 13-second photo, zoom in. Don't zoom into 100% or 10x on the cameras, because you're really only looking at a tiny little JPEG image on that file, in that RAW. So if you're at 3x or 4x zoom, if your stars are pinpoint, then you're good to go. If they're a little elongated, shorten your exposure. If they are pinpoint and you want a lower noise, try a little bit longer exposure until you see the stars starting to elongate a little bit. Doing it that way, it just takes 1 or 2 test shots to do it. And then, with that lens, I mean, I always know now 13 seconds, I'm fine with that 12 millimeter. I've shot it at 15. I think I've even shot it at 20 seconds before too. But the easiest way to do it is just take a test shot.
Exactly. Yeah, I come across this kind of discussion in one way or another, no matter what type of photography. These are great tools. They're good tips. They're good places to get started, recipes and things like that. Of course, with astrophotography, we're dealing with some very, concrete bodies. We know the speed at which we orbit. We know, all of those kind of basic things, but those are starting points. Until you actually try it yourself, it's only a starting point. It's definitely not a law. So a recipe, I think it's more of a guideline. We've all tried to bake cookies, and it always says, this is the recipe, this is the amount of time. It's your oven, your camera, your lens, your settings. It's all of those factors. It's also your preference. So don't get lost in the sauce too much.
Yeah. Well said, Ben. Excellent. Okay, so now we got my 2 photos here inside of Photoshop. Got my foreground down there, and we got my night sky right here. And what I'm going to do is get my night sky all set and ready to go. And so what I'm going to do here is bring up the Nik collection from DxO. So I'm going to bring in color effects, and I love this. And we're going to see like 2 or 3 different filters that I use inside of Nik color effects that really do a great job on these photos. So the first one is clear view. So here it is on the left-hand side, clear view. If I click on this little plus icon, that will bring it over here onto the right. Now we don't see any difference yet because this particular filter, it starts off at 0. And so you just increase the intensity. And I'll show you this as a dramatic thing. This is kind of like going crazy with dehaze. But I don't go crazy with these things. I'll just go and usually I'm like in the teens to the low 20s at the highest on this setting here. But this is at plus 17 right now. And if we just look here, just back and forth, you can see it's almost like it's gotten rid of just a little bit of a haze to the sky and made the Milky Way pop just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I may come back to this and adjust this further.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, which lens did you shoot this with?
With the OMSYSTEM 12 millimeter 2.0.
Okay, cool. The other thing that we do have a couple people clamoring for an answer on. Have you tried stacking using the high res mode for the OM1 Mark II or any of the other cameras that have that for high res handheld specifically for stacking? Have you tried that?
Well, again, I don't do stacking. Remember, I use DxO Pure Raw, so I don't do stacking. But yes, I have used I have used handheld high res and tripod high res on the night sky photos, and I have actually 2 photos in my Lightroom collection that I can talk about as we get closer to the top of the hour.
There you go, guys. Okay, cool. Carry on.
Okay. So we gave this a little bit of a clear view boost. Now I'm going to go down here to tonal contrast, and I'm going to click on the plus icon for that too. Now, tonal contrast is really nice because this is going to give me a really nice bump. And let me turn this off and on. And I'm getting a really big bump now in the Milky Way. The one thing that I hate, though, this does default to settings, unlike the clear view, and it defaults to plus 25% in the highlights, plus 50% in the midtones, and plus 25% in the shadows. I wish we could just adjust this so that it was plus 25 all the way around. I'm always knocking down the midtones, and then I'll take a look at the image. Does it look too crazy, too much contrast? And even at plus 25 on all of these, often it is, and I'll just bump down this opacity a little bit. And let's see if we can see the slight difference here. Here's before, and there's after. Again, slight difference, but look at that Milky Way coming out and getting more texture and detail in it. Yeah, I love this StreamYard because I'm getting a little bit of a delay even on my on my computer here. But look at this now with these two, with the clear view and the tonal contrast. Look at how that Milky Way pops out. There's another one here that I like to look at every once in a while, and this is remove color cast. And I'll click on the plus icon here, and this defaults to a color here. And all you need to do, and we can see here, this removed a color cast, but it's way too blue. I don't like this at all. But all you have to do here now is on this color dial here, just click and drag that. And as you start moving around, you'll see your photo starting to change colors. And a lot of times for the Milky Way, I'll keep it in this right-hand side here, where it's warming the Milky Way up a little bit more, warming everything out. So it's getting rid of a color cast. Now, again, this is way too strong. So I can lower the strength, lower the opacity, so that I'm just fine-tuning this little thing here. And so off and on. And so it's warming my Milky Way just a little bit. And so I can maybe increase the strength on that. Okay, and so just those three sliders here, there's a before and an after. And now I'm really happy with the detail that I have in my Milky Way. So I'm going to go ahead and click on apply. And this will send this back to Photoshop. And here's, we were talking about the Astro camera being really good at reds and everything like that. This is the Lagoon Nebula right over here. And so this is where the Astro camera really helps keeping in those colors of the nebula. Let's see here, even some nebula down in here too. So that's the advantage of that Astro camera is, and you can see, whoops, some nebulas up on top here as well, right up on top there. So that's a great advantage with the Astro camera. And I've also noticed just even in the cloud of the Milky Way, getting more detail and definition with that Astro camera. Okay, so now that we have my photo all set here for the sky, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this image. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to save it as a TIFF, 16-bit TIFF, save that in here. And well, I probably already have a copy of that in here. Let me go ahead and we'll just save this. Yeah, man. I'm going to call this sky. So I'm going to save this as a 16-bit TIFF, and I'm going to call this sky because we're going to use this for the sky replacement. No image compression, IBM PC byte order, and all that fun stuff. And while that's saving, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I haven't seen, but I've had it come up when I've led workshops myself, and okay, great, we had a great time. Let's go back and edit our images, and everybody comes back with very different versions of the same night. Mm-hmm. You have developed an eye for discerning the details and the color casts that work for you as an artist, but also when you're spending that much time, you get a sense of what is real and what is something that you want to change or correct to give more reality or highlight certain features. Is there a kind of red line in the sand, so to speak, that somebody can be looking at to know, okay, I've pushed this too far. I might like how this image looks, but now I've stepped into the toe of this is not reality, or there's detail that I've lost. We're dealing with celestial bodies millions of light years away. What's noise? What's stars? Those are questions that we have come up all the time. Do you have any tips for that kind of issue when learning how to edit?
Yeah. So I've just now edited this photo to have it be real. This is what the human eye is going to see. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, no, I would agree.
Yeah. So what is real? Our instruments are on Earth. We have the atmosphere to deal with going through the sky, and we just don't have people out there to be able to see all the real colors. All the photos that you get from Hubble telescope, those are all based on guesses on the colors, based on the gases and everything else that makes up all those deep space things. So there is no real. Unless
Mhm.
you process it like this, and no one's going to want to look at a Milky Way photo like this. So,
Correct.
there's things that you can do in terms of saturation. If you start seeing, your colors starting to bleed over onto each other and getting these halos and getting these artifacts from that, that's a sign that you're oversaturated. Same thing with
Yep.
during the day too. You get that. But
That's
the color
exactly where I was
temperature.
hoping you would bring it in is, it'll show you with those artifacts or those halos where details in the image will literally start kind of glowing. They get an edge to them, and that's a good signal for you to know you've pushed this too far.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And in terms of the color, again, when I first started doing Milky Way stuff, I liked having a lot of blue in my sky. Because we have a blue sky, and if you brighten it up a little bit, even at night, it still has that bluish tint from our atmosphere. And I don't know. Some of my photos today, they still have a little bit of a bluish tint to them, especially if there's a little bit of a partial moon out there. And, sometimes in the pitch dark, you can get a really nice black sky out of it. And, again, I stay away from a white balance of daylight temperature because I just don't like having a yellowish green Milky Way. To me, it doesn't show the colors. So that's where I cool down the temperature. But everyone has their own style, and I'm not saying that mine is right at all by any means, because this would be the only way. As a documentary photographer working for a newspaper, this would be pretty much the only way you could then show it at that. Did I answer that good enough there, Ben? Ben, you there? Okay. Oh, Ben froze again. So let me know if that answer was good.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay,
no, I
so
think
now
that's fantastic. I mean, it's a discussion point that comes up all the time.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Okay, so we got my sky photo. Let's go to my foreground photo. And, I can, if I wanted to, bring this into DxO, but this hour is flying by here. So we're just going to do the sky replacement right away, just to show you how to do this here. Just for kicks, I'm just going to duplicate this layer. I always like working on duplicate layers. And so that was just Command J on my Mac here. And man, look at all these satellites up in the sky in this photo here. So now that I have this photo on a new layer, I'm just going to go under Edit and click on Sky Replacement. And it's going to default to the last sky that you replaced. So we're going to see some other sky from one of my workshop nights as it loads that. And we just have to wait for a second for that to load. Okay, there we go. That's actually a nice sky from a different area. But if I just click in the sky area here and then click on plus, I can then navigate to that star sky that I had here. So this is the one that I just saved. Click on open. That's going to load it in here in Photoshop in the sky replacement. And once that is loaded there, I believe it was this one right here that we will click on. And bam, there we are. And the sky replacement in Photoshop is really, really good. I can go in here and do some fine tunement. I mean, I can click and drag if it didn't align it too well. But I mean, this did a really good job of doing that. Sometimes I'll zoom in a little bit and just move around here just to make sure that I have that alignment really good. And I'm just looking at the top of the roof here, and I just needed to lower my stars just a little bit. And then on the controls here, I don't do any of these controls on the bottom because this is all for your foreground photo, which I've already fixed and everything like that. But I will take a look at the shift edge and fade edge. And that stuff there, I'm just going to go at an extreme here. And you can see I clicked the shift edge far to the right. And now I have stars bleeding through on the barn. Obviously not good. If I click this to the left, that takes care of that. You want to make sure that you're just not getting a halo at all or anything like that when you're doing this sky replacement. Same thing with the fade edge. That's going to put a feathering on your edge. Sometimes if you do a foreground photo where your foreground is a really long exposure and you have star trails, be careful here and make sure that fade edge and shift edge is set correctly so you don't see some of those star trails appearing when you're doing your sky replacement. And then I'll just go around and look around here and make sure that the sky replacement is in a good spot. Not really seeing a halo. Let me back off on that fade edge there. And this is looking really good. So now all I have to do is go ahead and hit OK. Now, the great thing with Photoshop doing sky replacements is that it gives you all these masks here. So I could go into any one of these masks and go ahead and then paint things out or paint things in. Again, we don't have time to go through all of this here in this demo here, but just know that you do have these masks that you can then further adjust if you couldn't get the settings correct in that sky replacement window there. But everything looks pretty darn good here. And so from this point here, I'm happy. I would just go ahead and save this photo and start working on the next one. So before we go into those high-res photos and everything, Ben, oh, you know what? Let me just do one other thing here. I do want to do one thing because I got that little satellite up here.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of that. And so what I want to do on those, if you have to get rid of planes and things like that, if you go to your very top layer here, and there's a keyboard shortcut, and I'm sorry, Windows users, I always forget there's a key on the Mac that's different on Windows, and I always forget it. Someone can help me out here. But the keyboard shortcut on the Mac is Command, Option, Shift, and E. You have to hit all 4 of those keys together, and then that will make a whole brand new stamped layer up on top of your layer panel, as long as you've clicked on the top layer before you do that. So now this stamped layer, I can go ahead and do anything to it, and it's going to adjust. It's going to hit just that stamp layer. So like for here, I just want to get rid of that. I'm just going to hit my J key, which is for the what do they call it here? The remove tool. And I do have it set for there is a thing here where it will do AI if it needs it, and it doesn't. Here it is up here, auto. So I have it on mode auto, and it may use generative AI, and it doesn't count against any of your credits at all or anything like that. So I just have it set for that auto thing. And so just go like this, click right across there. And if it goes quickly, like it's doing right now, it didn't use AI. And then there, that's gone. And so I'll go through there and get rid of any other planes. There's a little satellite here. Sometimes there's a little bit of halos around your stars too. Like I got some little red here and little blue. You don't notice that unless you zoom in a whole lot. And so if this really bothered me, I could just go ahead here, even with that tool here, and just go around the star. And usually you can get that and get rid of that blue around your star there too. So that's a couple ways that I would then go ahead and clean up my photo after that. So
that's a great tip. That's a great
now this photo's done.
No, that's awesome. Wow. I mean, it is a tremendous final product. I mean, you've got the ideal amount of lighting in your foreground. You've got some really strong compositional features going on. There's a lot of complementary colors. You've got a really strong balance of the color cast that you've chosen. You know, there's a lot going for this image. But it's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, you know, this is not necessarily where a lot of people start. I mean, most people, you know, might not even go this far, but it's really nice to know how far you can take it. I do have a question. You know, we're getting a little close to time, so I think we can kind of discuss, you know, a comparison. We've been talking about the OM3 Astro a lot, which of course is a dedicated astrophotography camera with a different sensor to allow in essentially infrared wavelengths of light. How would that compare? Do you have any images of a similar exposure from the same night with, say, the OM1 Mark II, which is a non-modified sensor, just so people can kind of see that difference? Because we did have that question come up.
I mean, the only thing
I am kind of putting you on the spot, but
yeah, on my sales pages for the night sky here, I might have.
Hey, we like a selfless plug. There you go.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm sure I have one of the barn from another year. This one's from a few years ago. So, and then, I'm even looking at this photo now. I mean, this is actually an old photo, and I'm like, well, it's a little too yellow and it's a little too green. But I got some nice air glow and everything in there. But yeah, those nebulas are not popping as much. And even in the color on the Milky Way, let's see here if I have, here's another one. I mean, I was able to get just a little bit of red in there, but again, not as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make a good point, Ben, and that's something that I want to at some point do a YouTube video myself and just show the before and after, or not before and after, but the OM1 Mark II side by side to the OM3 Astro. Because there is a big difference between it. But that's not to say you can't get great images without the Astro camera.
Exactly.
If you then want to kick your photos up another level, there's that. And like even this photo here, I'm saying this is done, and this is actually good for this demo. But there's other specialized software that I use when I really want to geek out on these photos that will actually sharpen my stars even better and even correct if I had a little bit of a longer exposure. It'll make those elongated star trails a little pinpoint stars. It'll sharpen the stars, get rid of some more of that chromatic aberration. And I have another program that I use that'll actually remove a whole lot of those stars, because you look at this here and you do this correctly, you expose it correctly, develop it correctly. There is a ton of stars in this photo that actually, kind of blocks the Milky Way a little bit. And if you start doing deep space stuff, you're zooming in on Andromeda or any of these nebulas,
Exactly.
you get a lot of stars in your photo, and there's specific software to get rid of a lot of those stars, and you can do that selectively. So, basically this whole presentation was really designed to really inspire and get you going on just the basics of getting some really good, decent Milky Way photos. But no, there's always something to learn, and there's always ways you can keep on improving your craft. And one way would be checking out that Astro camera, then doing some other specialized software, and of course, taking a workshop with me, right, Ben?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys have it, definitely check it out. It's in the comments all the way at the top. I did drop in an opportunity for you both to sign up for Matt's newsletter to keep in touch with his travels and events going on, as well as his workshops that he does lead privately. And we do post those on the OM System events page as well. So if you're getting those emails, but it's nice to keep in touch with the man himself, because he's very responsive to that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, just to put a bow on the conversation between astro modified cameras versus non-astro modified cameras, for the most part, most of us are not shooting with an astro dedicated camera. The techniques are still the same. The lenses, the light choices that we make are the same. The editing might be a little different. What I find as a clear takeaway between what you're getting detail-wise, because those reds are so absent, now looking back at a non-astro modified camera, the photo seems to lack a certain balance that those reds give back, because before, we're lucky if we can pull out some yellows and some balanced greens and blues and just an overall brightness and detail. The reds just give it way more life. And if we were to segue into deep space photography, which is going to be with a longer lens, with a star tracker on a specific galaxy, that's where the detail aspects of working with a dedicated astro camera like the OM3 Astro are really going to shine. But the color balances that you're able to achieve naturally with a dedicated camera on a wider shot for Milky Way, it still is a big benefit. I wouldn't say it's absolutely crucial, and I'm probably going to get hit for that. But it's important to recognize, if you've got a tool in front of you and it does what you're looking for, continue to enjoy it and hone your technique. Because that new tool is only going to take you so far. It's more about the time that you spend in the field and the consistency there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And here's a shot with the Astro camera, and this is the Lagoon Nebula down here. And in my regular camera, I could pick up just a little bit of red in this area here, but I can't, like all this softer, less dense cloud material. You just don't pick that up without the Astro camera. and the Trifid Nebula up top here too. Rarely did I ever get any color in that on my non-astro modified camera. And then, we got another nebula up here. This is the Omega Nebula. But again, that nebula really standing out where it wouldn't in a non-astro camera.
Fantastic. I really like the foreground that you have there. It's kind of ethereal. What was going on there?
So let's talk about this here. So
happy accident or something cool?
Well, let's take a look at this here. So if we look at my file dimensions over here, this is at 6120 pixels by 8160 pixels. Ben, you know what the math is on this. What does this mean that I shot? How did I shoot this?
I know what the math is on this. No, you got to give it to us.
Oh, you don't?
Go for it.
6120 times 8160. That equals the megapixels, and that means this is a 50 megapixel image, which means I shot this in handheld high res.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. So that's one thing. If you ever want to know what the megapixel of a file is, just take the file dimensions and multiply them, and then that gives you the megapixels. Like if we look here at just at the regular photo here, this is 5184 by 3888. Multiply those together, you get 20, Ben. For the regular standard 20 megapixel of our base camera.
There you go.
So
I'm gonna blame it. I'm gonna blame it on leg because I am actually looking at the comments as we have that come in. Don't make me do math, Matt.
So this was photographed in handheld high res mode. And a couple things going on here. My mountain is blurry in the foreground here for two reasons. One, because I'm doing handheld high res. Now in handheld high res, it takes 12 photos. And the cool thing with the Astro camera is that it'll tell you what number frame you're on. That's a really cool thing on the Astro camera. But you don't need the Astro camera to do handheld high res on these night sky things. But what you do need to do is photograph the stars where you have at least 80% of your frame showing stars and just a small percentage showing whatever foreground happens to be there. Now, I shot this in handheld high res mode on my tripod, but I also happen to be using a star tracker at the same time too. So this technique is the same thing if you're using a star tracker or if you're not using a star tracker. You photograph the sky, the night sky, the stars, at least 80% of your frame shooting the stars, put it into handheld high res, whether you're just on a tripod or on the tracker. This happened to be a, what is that there? ISO 1250 because I was on a tracker. And this was with the 45 millimeter f1.2 Pro lens Emzuiko. And I shot this at f1.8 and it's a 40-second exposure. I have no star trailing for one, because it was on a tracker, but then also two, handheld high res mode. As long as you keep your initial exposure below that threshold where you start seeing the star trails, what's going to happen is handheld high res mode, the camera is going to compile all those photos together and make the stars appear pinpoint, as long as you did not, again, as long as you did like a 13-second exposure, 15-second exposure, so you're not getting star trails when you're not on a tracker. It'll compile it and you'll have nice sharp stars, but then your foreground will be all blurry. And so then what you need to do there, you got your star photo all set, recompose, and then here's all I did was tilt the camera down, got way more of my foreground and even got some water here. And now here's what you have to do. You have to make a decision. You can't do this one in tripod high or in handheld high res mode because you're on a tripod and that's going to mess up the algorithm in the camera. So you can either then turn off high res mode, or what I just do is I just put it on tripod high res mode. And so Ben, come on, 7776 by 10368, that equals 80 megapixels when you multiply those together. So tripod high res mode gives you an 80 megapixel foreground. And then, I just do the same processing as I did before, exporting them to DxO Pure Raw, getting them all nice and clean noise-wise, then do the editing, then combine them in Photoshop like I showed you with the sky replacement. But that's how I do the high-res shots. And man, this makes for a nice star trail too.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah, it's just I wish OM System could give us more than 60 seconds on a tripod high res mode, because that's the longest exposure you can do. And on tripod high res mode, it's doing 8 exposures. So so this would be technically an 8-minute exposure.
Well, as you know, the R&D team does listen to you as an ambassador, so I'll definitely be passing along that feedback. Um, I do have a question. It looks like somebody has actually joined one of your workshops previously. They were wondering, do you have any information about editing Northern Lights or Aurora images?
Um, there might be
Separate
something in
from
the
this, of course. I
archives.
got to believe you
Yeah.
got something on your website, or if you've done a workshop.
I think we've done some OM system classes before on editing. So you might have to look into the archives on that. I
Yeah.
don't have anything
Definitely
on
check
my
out
YouTube
the
channel
Learn
right now.
Center on our website as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything on my
Yeah, if there's something that
YouTube
you haven't
channel right
seen.
now on it. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we can do an
No
maybe
problem. Hey,
Ben and I we can do another
that's good content feedback.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if we get enough
Absolutely.
requests, we'll do another one on Aurora photography.
Totally. Yeah, we've had a good couple of years for that. So it's definitely increased in popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Very different experience. It's definitely a little bit more exhilarating. I mean, that's a living, breathing thing practically. So some final thoughts that I've kind of come away with, and if anybody has any other questions, now's the time, because we are technically over time, but we like to leave the door open for any last questions. Some final thoughts that I have is focus on your composition just as much as you do on planning out the location and the shot and your equipment. Be ready for both of those, because especially if you're trying to have a beautiful foreground, you need to be ready to be committed to that shot, right? There's not a whole lot of do-overs until the next day. So be prepared for that and be open to making mistakes. It's okay. We're not saving lives. This is enjoyable. But the more planning and preparation you do ahead of time to think out those photos, the better off you will be. I do have one question. Do you know of any filters for helping get back some of those reds for non-modified cameras? I know of light pollution, which will help with your yellows and help with clarity in some cases. But do you know of anything to help with those reds?
No, I don't, because the way they modify it, they take away filters on the camera
Exactly.
to increase the sensitivity in the available light spectrum. So no, I don't know of any filters to add back color for the nebula. Yeah,
that was my thought too. Yeah. We do have another person that's interested in the Aurora, so that's kind of an interesting thing. But would you use an astro camera for the Aurora? I mean, I don't know that there would be an immediate benefit. Do you see a benefit to that because of that wavelength difference?
That's a good question. I don't know how it would respond to that.
It'd be an interesting
Potentially
experiment.
potentially could give you different hues of red. If that's even in that spectrum, I'm not sure. Yeah, but I mean, if you did have the Aurora with the Milky Way in the background there, I mean, that would be that would be an interesting thing.
That'd be a money shot for sure.
I'm going to try it at some point, so I'll let everyone know. But yeah, I haven't shot the Aurora with it yet.
Very cool. All righty. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. If you're not subscribing, definitely make sure to do so. We have a bunch of different classes and educational pieces, as well as just general discussions, both with industry professionals like myself, as well as, frankly, legends. I mean, you are a global pro ambassador with us, like Matt. Also, make sure to follow Matt on Instagram or any of the other places. He does have a fantastic YouTube channel as well. Hopefully he makes some cool content based on today's feedback. And lastly, make sure to check us out on OMSYSTEM.com for the events, so you can keep up to date with all the other classes that we have going on. Next week is going to be our last one for summer school. I'm going to be joined by travel and commercial landscape photographer Chris Poplowski as we discuss his most iconic travel images and how you can improve your travel photos as well. So thank you, everyone. And thanks again, Matt.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending this, either live or on the replay too. And be great to hear from you too.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.